Welcome to the Barter Edge podcast, your insider guide to smarter business, bigger networks, and better ways to trade. We're here to share real stories, expert tips from different industries, and fresh ideas to help you grow your business using the power of Bartercard. Well, this is a very exciting episode of the Barter Edge. It is our very first episode and launch of this podcast where we get to really help give some insights into how people can utilize the Bartercard network to grow their business. And we've got an incredibly special guest because one of the original founders of Bartercard is here with us today. Mr. Andrew, can you please introduce yourself to everyone who may not be familiar with who you are?
How far do you want me to go back? Well, thanks very much for the intro. Good to be here. Well, Andrew Federowsky, originally born in Germany, got here at a tender age of 23. That was in 1988. Now I'm giving my age away. And in 1991, we started the Bartercard company. And 34 years later, we're here.
Well, it's great to have you here. Now, what is your role within Bartercard? Because I feel like we've gone back to the future, but there's so much excitement around everyone within the team, but also our existing members that have been members for the last 30 plus years.
Yeah, well, my current role is being the CEO of the company. And I think the excitement comes from being an original founder of the company, having led our company-owned franchise group, then Bartercard Australia, then Bartercard International, offshore, award-winning franchise model, recognized by the International Reciprocal Trade Association, listed on a couple of international stock markets. So the company has pioneered a lot of things in Australia, not to forget, obviously, creating an alternative currency that has lasted 34 years. And I think the original drive, entrepreneurship, and the values of the company has resonated with the members through, listing and a couple of ownership changes. Some of those have maybe been a little bit lost in the process. And I think the excitement is that we're going basically back to the basics, bolting on a lot of brand new technology, but keeping the values firmly in our sight.
One of my favorite things about working at Bartercard is hearing all of your stories. And today I'm excited to hear a couple of your stories. But before we get there, if someone's listening to this and they have never heard of Bartercard before or they never have looked into it, what is Bartercard?
Well, the most asked question, and if you would ask any of our many thousand clients, the answer would always be different. In a nutshell, Bartercard is an alternative currency, call it a digital currency, that gives you access to a closed network of like-minded business people to enhance your business. So you will get exposed to a brand new group of people that you normally wouldn't do business with. These people come to you because simply you are a member, pay you in the Bartercard currency for your goods and services, and then you use those Bartercard trade dollars to buy the things you normally pay cash for. Hence, the cash that you normally would use stays in the business. But there's a myriad of applications to it. That's why it's never really a fast answer.
Yeah, and it's interesting speaking to so many of our clients as well at the benefits, everyone's benefits of being in that network is so different. Some people, they want to be able to purchase things at their gross profit margins because they know that that's a smart way of saving cash flow. But some people want the introductions to some of our clients. And so you're right, everyone's answer to that would be very, very different. Now, we've had some changes. Mm-hmm. Can you talk us through the new platform?
Well, pretty exciting. Technology brings with it not only headaches sometimes for people to get their head around, but also ease of use. So when we originally started the company, many of the viewers would be familiar with the old way of doing a credit card transaction, where you've got the 3-copy transaction voucher that went through the zip-zap machine. You had to insert your card, make sure that it printed properly and put a lot of pressure on the machine. Today, I think it's a bit nostalgic and fun. Then it was essential. But then technology moved on where you could do transactions online. Obviously, when swipe card technology came in, we've done some deals with the banks and used their platform to transact Bartercard transactions, so members could just swipe their card in the terminals. We skipped the chip in the cards because obviously swipe was still enabled, and now we're using a full-on app, which is mind-boggling. Just basically hold your phones, read a QR code, do your transaction. Anybody, anywhere can do Bartercard transactions now. It doesn't matter where you're based, if you're mobile on the road or if you've got a retail outlet. It's just fantastic. And our online platform, the members trading portal, just reflects the same progress. You know, ease of listing, think of it like Facebook Marketplace, but you can use your Bartercard trade dollars to purchase.
Yeah, and it's amazing what you can find in there. We've been speaking with so many people that have used it for so many different things to reduce their business expenses, but also some more for their lifestyle. I got a puppy. Like, it's amazing what you can do through the Bartercard network. Now, you've got a lot of stories after 34 years so far with Bartercard. I'd love to hear a couple of your stories.
When I look at the video testimonials, and we've got hundreds of those, and we are slowly but surely putting them on our website as well for people to have a look at. And yes, there's people who have approached me in the past or shared their story that, you know, small business is a bit of a myth. People think that being in business for themselves all of a sudden will afford them all the glitz things in life and the holidays and trips overseas and you name it. But we all know, or business owners all know, that that's a bit of a myth. You work harder than anybody else. You don't get as many public holidays because there's work to do. And you're constantly battling with competitors, market changing, conditions changing, you name it. So, as we said a little bit earlier, it would be so different for everybody. So sometimes when I speak to a client and they say, look, we just came back from a holiday, maybe in Thailand or the Cook Islands or New Zealand or even in Europe, and that they have saved thousands of dollars to do it, or maybe they weren't even able to afford it if they had to pay cash for it. Very quickly, you know, you can spend on a family holiday $10,000, and that's money that you have to save up or whack on your credit card and then pay for a long time paying it off. Now, if you use Bartercard trade dollars, you don't have to do the saving up. You can charge it to your Bartercard, and then Bartercard brings you the customers to pay for it or to work it off kind of thing. So it's almost like a good old contra deal. So, yes, some of the stories where people just afforded holidays were great. Recently, we had one of our clients took the whole family to New Zealand, not just the immediate family, but extended family, cousins, brother, sister, the whole kit and caboodle, and most of it was paid for on Bartercard. So that was amazing, and she told me that she wouldn't have been able to do that otherwise. That's a great story, but something that's maybe a little bit more heartwarming is a client approached me, that's a long time ago, maybe 20 years ago, at one of our trade shows that was in Brisbane. We had like 200 stands, like over 1,000 people through the doors. People do business. And this guy picks me out of the crowd. And he goes, are you Andrew Federowsky? I said, yes. I want to shake your hand. And I said, okay, why? Give him my hand. You know, it's like, shook the hand. I said, what's the story? And he said, look, I moved from Tasmania up to the Gold Coast, up to Brisbane with his wife and 7 children. And because he was busy doing all the work, the wife handled the real estate transaction, the funds and everything and so on. He moved up with the children. Transactions been happening. I don't know exactly how it happened, but his missus left with the proceeds of the sale of the house. So the only thing that he ended up having was a ute and 7 children.
Wow.
So, and he was going to start a signwriting business, and he had obviously the money to rent some premises and get started, buy the equipment and materials that he needed to do the jobs. And he was a brand new Bartercard client. He applied for an extended line of credit, which he was granted because signwriting is a popular product within the Bartercard network. Every business at some stage needs signwriting. So he got a line of credit approved. His account manager put him in touch with another signwriter who's been with us for quite some time. That particular signwriter then sold him, did the signage on the ute, then sold him some of his materials on Bartercard as well. And he said, you can use my workshop until you get on your feet. From then on, the account manager started sending him some work. He was able to rent a place. I can't even believe that he ended up in Brisbane with nowhere and 7 kids. It's just beyond me. He established himself. He got his signwriting business up and running. Kids all booked in schools and kindies. And today he's got a flourishing signwriting business. And after he told me the story, I wanted to shake his hands because the real hero of the story was him. We just provided the tool.
Yeah, it's such an amazing story. I don't know about our listeners out there, but I've got goosebumps from hearing that story. Share another one with us.
I really like the member stories. I mean, there's so many personal things that have gone on in my life and our life, like the whole team that at Bartercard, everybody goes through personal growth and professional growth. Anything from being invited by the King of Jordan. I mean, that was like a big honor for myself, or being inducted into the Barter Hall of Fame in the US for significant contribution to the barter industry globally. I mean, when you get recognized by your peers, that's pretty amazing. But as amazing as that is, nothing beats when you can give back something. For example, we participated with a Matt Rogers charity that he operates. In Bartercard, we rebuilt the Early Learning Center in Burleigh, not far from here, actually. And once we've done it all, like in the beginning was a bit of a basket case. The kitchen was really run down, swollen cabinets, water damage, very aged facility. I mean, the people that were there were fantastic. Kids were great. And the place looked really sad. So we went, gutted the place, rebuilt this, put some beautiful light fittings, looked like clouds on the ceiling, big screen TV, play area, soft furnishings, you name it. It was all fantastic. And on the night of reveal, they had a lot of their parents there as well. And it was just us. No big media, because we didn't do it for media exposure. We just did it because it was the right thing to do and giving something back. And when I would say, the principal of the Early Learning Center was sort of talking to the crowd and thanked Matt Rogers and us. And we were sort of walking some of the kids and the parents through the different play areas. I had a couple of kids come up, hug my leg and thank me for the new facility. And that was pretty heartwarming, So those stories just burn into your mind, when you can actually give back some. Everybody wants to be a good corporate citizen, but we do it because we want to do it, not because we have to do it,
Yeah, and Bartercard has partnered with quite a few amazing charities nationally, and it's amazing to hear the stories of some of the partnerships that we do have and what they've been able to do, like Animal Welfare League, and there's so many amazing stories, and it keeps me really excited when I'm in the office hearing stories like that. But after so long being with Bartercard, what keeps you motivated?
Well, you've just heard the reasons for it. Those stories, we do that every single day. A lot of people don't talk about how they pay for things or how they got to things. Nobody says, I put this on my MasterCard or Visa card, or I paid cash for it, or I took a loan or lease. Nobody really talks about it, or I bought it on Bartercard. But we do that every day. We help every day business people gain extra customers they normally wouldn't have, meet like-minded people. Networking is not always easy for people. If you're busy, chasing the next dollar to keep food on the table, keeping the business afloat, keeping employees employed, no matter what size business you operate in, there's plenty to do all the time, so people don't do a lot of networking. So we kind of do that for them. We have selective people that's all open-minded. They join Bartercard at some stage. They're looking for extra business. And on the flip side, they're looking to reduce their cash expenses by then using the barter dollars. And what some people, in fact, even the media in the past, they said, oh, wow, that's amazing. We had a cruise boat company here on the Gold Coast. They were struggling pretty bad. They were considering winding the business up and going out of business just because of how things were going. Maintenance was needed on the business. Marketing was needed. They had the boat, not enough customers. And we helped out with the customers, then they used their Bartercard trade dollars to promote their business and do some renovations on the boat. The business picked up because they were better presented and they were now in the market. People could find them easily and the business flourished. They went to the media and told their story. And because they appreciated what happened to them, they gave Bartercard a pretty good plug. Now, those things happen with us every single day. And when you have success stories every day of helping other people every day, why wouldn't you get a buzz out of coming to work every day?
Absolutely. And I love it. And there is such a buzz at the moment within the team. And I know before I knew about Bartercard and became a member myself, before I started working for Bartercard, I loved it so much.
You're going to end up buying the company.
I don't know about that. But the person I would call if I ever needed something, and she was one of the first people I met when I moved to the Gold Coast, is your key account holder, Renee. And anytime we needed anything, whether it was storage or, I don't know, anything you could imagine, she's the one with the relationships with every person in every sector. And I think that that's one of the biggest selling points to becoming a Bartercard member is you've got someone who understands your business, who is looking for business and connections for you, both in the cash economy as well as being in the trade economy. So they're the relationship kings and queens throughout Australia that know everyone. Now, what would you say to someone if they were considering becoming a Bartercard member? Is Bartercard for everyone?
No, not really. Bartercard is for every business, but not for every business owner. Some people, no matter how good the product or service, some people will just never do business with you. They either don't believe in it, they are conditioned by the cash economy, they're not open-minded, they don't want to try something different to what they've been brought up in. So if your mindset is closed, then Bartercard is not for you. But I can guarantee that Bartercard is for every business. So when you've got, I'll give you an example. We had two restaurants next to each other in Broadbeach. I won't name them because otherwise, people could work back. But there were previous owners. They're now owned by somebody else. They were next to each other. One of them was a bit of a bistro-style food. The other one was a lot more upmarket. The owner of the bistro-style food embraced Bartercard fully, had always more people in his restaurant than the other one because people attract people. He used his Bartercard trade dollars to pay for marketing, advertising, and prizes, value adds. He brought wine into his business that he then sold through the restaurant. And he was doing, in fact, this guy had 3 restaurants. He was doing around about $100,000 a month turnover with us alone.
Wow.
That's incredible. Even I was blown away when we realized the numbers that he was doing, and that is not the norm. But the guy next door, and I think arguably the restaurant was a better restaurant, was mostly empty. When the guy had $1,500 in his Bartercard account, he started to sweat, wonder what he was going to do with it. He didn't like the wine that we had available, even though it was some names that you would be familiar with, different wineries. But because he didn't like it, he didn't buy the product, he didn't use his Bartercard trade dollars to turn it back into cash. And ultimately, that person closed his account. Ultimately, he closed the restaurant because he wasn't really successful. And the other one sold his restaurant for a pretty penny.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah. So it's mindset, which is something that every business owner needs to consider.
Yep.
But looking for new opportunities, we're coming into, well, we've been in this climate financially in Australia for quite a long time. And what I find interesting is Bartercard was actually launched not long after the late 80s recession, where businesses were needing other ways of doing business. And we're finding that now with people inquiring on how Bartercard could work for them. So would you say the timing is absolutely right to look into Bartercard being a great fit for your business?
Sadly, it seems that when times get tough, people are actively looking for different ways of doing things, and that's when we come, on their radar. The time is always right to join Bartercard. Over 34 years, we had ups and downs. We had booming economy, we had struggling economy, we had not only the recession in the late 80s, but we had the GFC, we had COVID. We're currently in a cost of living crisis, house affordability, you name it. The list of challenges is super long.
So where do you see Bartercard going into the future?
Well, look, you got to sort of think about it a little bit, wind back a little bit. Actually, when we started, cell phones at the time, mobile phones, weren't an everyday thing. When you saw someone on the street with one of those big mobile phones, people called them names, I'm sure you've heard about that. Computers weren't on everybody's desk. Of course, our back end was driven by computers, but our CRM, customer service, all that kind of stuff, that was all very manually. And the businesses were very manual. Today, you could almost say if you haven't got a computer, you're not competitive in your business. Cell phones. If you haven't got a cell phone, hardly anybody has got landlines. And if you call from a landline, nobody answers the phone, because they think you're some kind of scam or telemarketer. So everything changes. And when business progresses, when the economy or the payment systems, zip-zap machine for transaction vouchers over swipe card, over chip, if you don't accept a credit card, you'll probably be out of business. If you don't have a mobile phone, you'll be out of business. If you haven't got a computer, you're out of business. They're essentials to keep moving. If you ignore trends, you will not be in business. Now, maybe we were a bit lucky. Maybe we had foresights. We created a digital currency way before it became a term. But over the last 5 or 10 years, everybody's talking about cryptos and digital currencies and alternative ways of payment. I dare to say, if you don't get on the trend, you will get left behind.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more with that. Well, Andrew, it's such a pleasure to have you in the recording studio at Studio 6. We are here with Kingsley, who's also one of our clients. So we love supporting all of our Bartercard members, but I'm sure we will get you on again soon for another episode of the Barter Edge.
Can't wait. Good to see everybody. And don't be scared. Just give us a buzz.
Thank you for being with us today and sharing your stories and expertise. If you want to find out how Bartercard can help your business, or if you want to be a guest on our future podcasts, contact our team at hello@bartercard.com. Make sure you tune in for our next episode of the Barter Edge.